Hey, book lovers, dive into King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby, a gritty southern noir packed with family secrets, crime, and raw emotion. When a prodigal son returns to his family's crematorium in rural Virginia, he finds him trapped in a deadly game with a drug gang. This isn't just a thriller. It's a powerful story of loyalty, survival, and the price of protecting your own. Don't miss this unforgettable ride. Let's get into the story summary and see what makes this novel so gripping. The narrative of King of Ashes opens by introducing us to Roman Carruthers, a man who had meticulously carved out a new life for himself far from the dusty, rural roads of Jefferson Run, Virginia. He'd successfully climbed the corporate ladder in Atlanta, a bustling city teeming with skyscrapers and cutthroat financial dealings, a stark contrast to the small-town existence he'd deliberately left behind. Roman truly believed he'd escaped his past, shedding his old identity and the emotional baggage of his roots for a polished, sophisticated persona. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. A sudden, jarring phone call shatters his carefully constructed world. His father, who had steadfastly operated the family crematorium back in Jefferson Run, had been involved in a mysterious and severe car accident, leaving him in a deep, unresponsive coma. This devastating news acts like an inescapable gravitational pull, dragging Roman back to the very place he swore he'd never truly return to, a town steeped in his childhood memories, yet also profoundly scarred by unspoken family traumas and hidden histories. Upon his reluctant arrival, the air in Jefferson Run feels heavy, thick with unspoken truths and a palpable tension. Roman quickly senses that his father's accident was far from random. There's a sinister undercurrent, a clear suggestion that something far more deliberate and dangerous was at play, tied to the town's darker elements. This chilling realization immediately plunges Roman into a world he thought he'd definitively escaped, a world where the lines between right and wrong are dangerously blurred, and where his beloved family is already caught in a complex web of secrecy and imminent peril. His homecoming, once a distant thought, now becomes a desperate, unwilling dive into the heart of a crisis he's profoundly ill-equipped to handle, forcing him to confront not just his family's dire predicament, but also the long-buried, difficult aspects of his own identity. Upon Roman's arrival back in Jefferson Run, the full, devastating scope of his family's predicament quickly becomes agonizingly clear, utterly unlike any spreadsheet he'd ever balanced in Atlanta. The calm facade of his quiet hometown shatters as he's confronted with the harrowing truth. His younger brother, Dante, reckless and seemingly adrift, has not merely made a mistake, but has plunged the entire family into an abyss of crushing debt and profound danger. Dante, characterized by his impulsiveness and lack of responsibility, has accumulated a staggering sum of money owed to the most feared and ruthless drug gang in the region, the Black Baron Boys. This notorious gang is an iron-fisted organization that lords over Jefferson Run, casting a long shadow of terror. It is led by two brothers whose names alone strike fear into the hearts of the town's inhabitants, Torrent and Tranquil, figures of brutal efficiency and absolute control. Their grip on the local underworld is unwavering, and their methods are utterly savage and unforgiving. Dante's reckless actions haven't just imperiled himself. They've dragged the entire Carruthers family, severing their ties to their past and threatening their present, into the gang's menacing and inescapable orbit. The family's crematorium business, a sacred cornerstone of their legacy and livelihood for generations, now stands on the precipice of utter ruin. It's not just a financial threat, it's an existential one, jeopardizing their very identity and place in the community. Roman, who initially envisioned a quick financial solution to smooth things over, now comprehends the terrifying depth of the quagmire. The immense weight of his brother's folly presses down on him, laying bare the fragile state of the family unit in his prolonged absence. He sees the visible strain on his sister, Nevaeh, who has been desperately trying to keep the business afloat, and the silent despair etched on the faces of other family members. His return to his roots is not a nostalgic journey, but a jarring collision with a harsh reality. where the bonds of family are tested by the relentless pressures of survival and the chilling, uncompromising demands of a deeply entrenched criminal enterprise. The very foundation of the Carruthers family is crumbling, and Roman, the prodigal son, is now thrust into the unenviable and perilous position of trying to hold the shattered pieces together. Fresh from the corporate world of Atlanta, Roman's initial and instinctively logical reaction to the crisis is to approach it with the same meticulous logic and sharp financial acumen he honed in sterile boardrooms and high-stakes deals. He firmly believes that every problem, no matter how dire or dangerous, ultimately possesses a monetary solution, a price that can be paid to restore order. He is unwavering in his confidence that his intelligence, strategic thinking, and negotiation skills can ultimately extricate his family from Dante's overwhelming debt. To him, the Black Baron boys are simply another business entity, albeit an extremely dangerous one, that can be reasoned with through numbers, data, and well-structured strategic proposals, much like he would approach a complex corporate acquisition. Roman actively seeks out a meeting with Torrent and Tranquil, the ruthless and enigmatic leaders of the gang. He arrives, not with a weapon or a show of force, but with a meticulously planned and professionally presented financial proposition. He offers various robust payment plans, puts forth substantial sums to buy out Dante's entire debt, and even suggests paying a significant premium to ensure his brother's safety and the family's complete freedom from the gang's menacing clutches in the future. His approach is remarkably professional, almost detached, as if he were discussing a high-value merger or a sensitive restructuring. He calmly outlines the terms, speaks of interest rates and repayment schedules, all carefully designed to appeal to what he assumes is their primary motivation: profit. He is absolutely prepared to leverage his own substantial resources, even his personal fortune accumulated through years of successful corporate work, to secure his family's peace and disentangle them from this nightmare. Roman genuinely believes that by demonstrating a clear willingness to pay and by presenting a well-structured, undeniable financial solution, he can bypass the brute violence and pervasive intimidation that typically define the gang's operations. He clings to the hope that rationality and the sheer power of money will ultimately prevail, entirely unaware that the rules of this particular game are far more brutal, deeply rooted in centuries-old notions of power, respect, and fear, rather than mere commerce or logical profit. Roman's ingrained corporate assumptions and his meticulously planned financial offers are met not with negotiation or reasoned discussion, but with a chilling, immediate, and utterly brutal display of raw power that utterly shatters his carefully constructed worldview. The Black Baron boys, particularly the menacing brothers Torrent and Tranquil, do not operate on the principles of logic, market economics, or even basic empathy. They thrive on fear, intimidation, and an absolute, unquestioning dominance. Roman's attempts to buy out Dante's debt are interpreted by them not as a smart business move or a sign of good faith, but as a glaring signal of weakness, a desperate plea from an outsider who profoundly misunderstands their rigid, violent code and the true nature of their control. Instead of engaging in any form of discussion about figures, deadlines, or terms, the gang responds with visceral, unadulterated violence. Roman himself is subjected to a savage and calculated beating, a horrifying act meticulously designed to strip him of his arrogance, his corporate polish, and to forcefully impress upon him the true, unyielding nature of their authority. This isn't just about inflicting physical pain. It's a profound psychological assault, a deliberate act of humiliation and subjugation. Every punch, every kick, every cold, menacing glare from Torrent and Tranquil serves as a brutal lesson in the grim reality of their world. He is made to understand, in the most visceral and agonizing way possible, that in Jefferson Run's unforgiving underworld, the true currency isn't just money. It's fear, excruciating pain, and the absolute willingness to inflict it without remorse. This agonizing and transformative encounter strips away Roman's veneer of urban sophistication and exposes him to the raw, untamed savagery that defines the Black Baron boys. He realizes with stark, terrifying clarity that the rules he knows from the business world, contracts, negotiations, legal frameworks, and ethical boundaries, are utterly meaningless here. He's dealing with a power that operates entirely outside any moral or legal boundaries he's ever known, a force that responds only to might. It's a terrifying, life-altering moment that unequivocally signals the true beginning of his forced descent into the suffocating darkness he so desperately tried to avoid, confirming that he's entered a world where his previous life's rules simply don't apply. Stripped of his last illusions, his body aching and his spirit battered, Roman is left with a stark, terrifying, and seemingly inescapable choice. His conventional, civilized methods have not only failed, but have provoked a violent, terrifying response and the direct threats to his family, specifically his brother Dante. But by chilling extension, all of them are now undeniable and immediate. With no other viable options to protect his loved ones from the relentless and utterly ruthless grip of the Black Baron boys, Roman makes a desperate, soul-crushing decision. He offers himself and his unique, highly intelligent skills directly to the criminal enterprise. This isn't a mere business transaction. It's a profound act of surrender, a desperate gamble for the survival of his kin. Roman, the sharp financial executive who once navigated the intricate complexities of multi-million-dollar corporate mergers, now finds himself offering his keen intellect, strategic thinking, and analytical prowess to a criminal organization. While he might not be a street enforcer or a brute, his mind is a formidable weapon, capable of understanding complex systems, spotting critical vulnerabilities, and devising intricate, effective plans. He clings to the belief that by making himself indispensable, by providing value to the gang, he can somehow ensure his family's safety and ultimately extricate them, even if it means becoming actively complicit in their illicit and dangerous activities. This decision marks Roman's official, irreversible entry into the criminal underworld, a point of no return from his former life. It represents a profound and agonizing moral compromise, forcing him to cross a line he once thought utterly unimaginable and utterly beneath him. He's no longer just trying to pay off a debt. He's becoming an active, vital participant in the very darkness and criminality he sought to escape. The narrative delves into the immense personal cost of this choice, the rapid erosion of his former identity, the overwhelming burden of guilt that begins to weigh on his conscience, and the chilling realization that to save his family, he must sacrifice a fundamental part of himself, perhaps his very soul. This dark bargain sets the grim stage for Roman's complex and perilous transformation, as he steps from the world of ledgers and spreadsheets into the murky, violent, and morally ambiguous currents of crime, all for the desperate, consuming hope of keeping his family afloat. While Roman is reluctantly pulled deeper into the treacherous currents of the criminal underworld, his sister, Nevaeh, shoulders the crushing and often solitary burden of keeping the family's legitimate enterprise, the crematorium, from collapsing entirely. With their father gravely injured and in a coma, and Roman now dangerously entangled, the overwhelming responsibility of maintaining the family's legacy and their sole consistent source of income falls squarely on her shoulders. She grapples daily with the immense practical challenges of running the business, managing the staff, performing the solemn duties of cremations, and dealing with the mounting financial pressures exacerbated by Dante's reckless debt and Roman's new, highly precarious involvement. For Nevaeh, the crematorium is far more than just a business. It's a sacred symbol of their family's enduring presence and identity in Jefferson Run, and its failure would represent an unbearable and complete loss of their last true sanctuary. Simultaneously, Nevaeh is driven by a deep-seated, unresolved grief and an insatiable curiosity, the haunting mystery of their mother's decades-old disappearance. This unsolved enigma has cast a perpetual, cold shadow over the Carruthers family, leaving raw emotional scars and a multitude of unanswered questions that have silently festered for generations. Nevaeh begins to suspect that her mother's vanishing act might not have been a random occurrence or a simple desertion, as many believed. She intuitively feels there's a darker, more deliberate truth beneath the surface. She meticulously starts to piece together fragmented old conversations, long-forgotten memories, and subtle, overlooked clues, desperate to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Nevaeh's relentless pursuit of this past secret is not merely an emotional quest for closure. She begins to believe with growing conviction that there might be a direct and sinister connection between her mother's vanishing and the family's current precarious situation, particularly the menacing influence and power of the Black Baron boys. Perhaps the secrets of the past hold the key to understanding the present dangers they face, offering a path to either salvation or deeper peril. Her parallel investigation highlights her extraordinary resilience, sharp intellect, and unwavering determination, positioning her as another crucial and dynamic player in the unfolding drama, working on a different front, but with the same ultimate, desperate goal: to save her family, both from immediate, visible threats and from the lingering, corrosive shadows of their painful and concealed history. As Roman becomes more deeply entrenched in the insidious operations of the Black Baron boys, a profound, disturbing, and irreversible transformation begins to take hold within him. The sharp, ethical lines and moral boundaries he once lived by, so clearly defined in his corporate life, start to blur, then twist, and eventually dissolve altogether. He is no longer just a passive participant or a reluctant strategist observing from a distance. He is increasingly forced to become an active, even pivotal, agent in the gang's brutal and illegal undertakings. This grim involvement demands not only the cold calculation of a strategist, but also the execution of tasks that require a chilling ruthlessness he never knew he possessed, pushing him to commit acts he once deemed unthinkable. The narrative meticulously details Roman's accelerating descent into this dark world. He begins to witness, then participates in acts of violence, intimidation, extortion, and illicit dealings. The initial shock and profound revulsion he felt at these atrocities slowly, insidiously, give way to a chilling adaptation. He learns to suppress his conscience, to rationalize his increasingly morally bankrupt actions as necessary evils for the perceived greater good of protecting his family. The polished financial executive begins to shed his old skin entirely, revealing a harder, more cynical, and dangerously pragmatic core underneath. He learns to speak the gang's coarse language, to anticipate their volatile moves, and even to adopt some of their hardened demeanor and brutal logic. This section vividly explores the agonizing psychological toll of his choices. Roman grapples with intense moments of self-loathing, despair, and existential dread, recognizing that the man he is becoming is terrifyingly far removed from the man he once was, an unrecognizable shadow of his former self. Yet the constant, gnawing threat to his family, the paralyzing fear that his failure means their ultimate destruction, pushes him inexorably further down this dark path. He realizes with stark clarity that there's no turning back, that the world he now inhabits demands a completely different kind of strength, one forged in violence, moral compromise, and the willingness to sacrifice everything. He's learning to survive in a predator's world, and in doing so, he inevitably begins to embody some of the very darkness and brutality he despises, becoming an instigator of violence himself when circumstances ruthlessly demand it. This transformation is not sudden, but a gradual, insidious, and terrifying erosion of his former self, leaving him a complex, morally ambiguous figure caught between his desperate love for his family and the unforgiving, corrupting demands of the criminal underworld. The Carruthers family crematorium, a place traditionally associated with solemnity, dignified farewells, and the peaceful, respectful transition of the deceased, undergoes a chilling and utterly profane transformation in this pivotal part of the story. What was once a steadfast symbol of the family's legitimate business, their deep roots in the community, and their long-standing commitment to service, now becomes increasingly and irrevocably entangled with the nefarious and gruesome activities of the Black Baron boys. As Roman delves deeper into the gang's brutal operations and gains their trust, the crematorium's unique and highly specialized facilities, particularly its powerful, high-temperature furnaces, catch the cold, calculating attention of torrent and tranquil. Designed for the efficient and sterile disposal of human remains, these formidable ovens present a grimly convenient and highly effective solution for their increasingly bloody criminal needs. The narrative explores the gang's chilling contemplation, and increasingly, their actual, regular use of the crematorium to dispose of the bodies of their victims, effectively erasing all physical evidence and leaving no trace for law enforcement to follow. This horrifying desecration of what should be a sacred and revered space highlights the escalating ruthlessness of the gang and, even more acutely, the profound and agonizing depth of Roman's forced moral compromise. For Roman, witnessing his family's cherished legacy being twisted and perverted into an instrument of unspeakable crime is a profound and soul-crushing agony. The very place where he learned about respect for the dead, where generations of his family have performed their solemn and dignified duty, is now being systemically corrupted and defiled. This adds another immense layer to his already unbearable moral burden, as he is forced to facilitate, or, at the very least, silently endure this horrific abuse of his family's heritage and their sacred calling. The crematorium's furnaces, once a source of light and a means of providing closure to the grieving, become a chilling symbol of the consuming darkness that has utterly enveloped the Carruthers family, leaving no aspect of Roman's former life untouched by its corrupting and destructive influence. As the narrative of King of Ashes propels forward with escalating tension, the intricate and ever-tightening web of secrets surrounding Roman and the entire Carruthers family becomes not only complex but exquisitely dangerous. This part meticulously unravels multiple layers of hidden truths, revealing how past events and meticulously guarded, undisclosed information have profoundly shaped and exacerbated their current, perilous predicament. These secrets are not merely personal family matters. They're deeply interwoven with the very fabric of Jefferson Run's criminal underworld and its long, violent history. Dante's crippling drug debt, initially presented as the primary catalyst for Roman's reluctant return, is revealed to be far more than just a simple financial misstep or youthful indiscretion. It's connected to deeper, more insidious dealings and long-standing power dynamics within Jefferson Run's underworld, potentially involving shadowy figures or arrangements that predate the Black Baron boys' overt control. The threads of this seemingly recent debt begin to inextricably intertwine with other, much older and darker secrets that have been carefully guarded within the family for generations, hinting at a generational curse or hidden legacy. Crucially, Nevaeh's relentless and increasingly perilous investigation into their mother's decades-old disappearance starts to yield disturbing and utterly unexpected results. Her unwavering digging uncovers not just personal tragedy and sorrow, but potentially a direct and terrifying connection between their mother's mysterious vanishing act and the very same ruthless criminal elements now threatening them. This chilling revelation strongly suggests that the family's current woes are not merely a result of Dante's impulsive actions, but are deeply rooted in a long-standing, generational conflict, a hidden pact, or an ancient transgression that has finally come to a violent and unavoidable head. The family's deepest secrets, once thought to be safely buried and forgotten, now relentlessly rise to the surface, bringing with them unforeseen dangers and forcing Roman and Nevaeh to confront uncomfortable and often horrifying truths about their lineage, their family's past, and the true, dark nature of their seemingly quiet hometown. These interconnected secrets create a devastating ripple effect, pulling the entire family deeper into a maelstrom of deceit, violence, and long overdue retribution. Every new piece of information uncovered doesn't offer a solution, but rather exposes another treacherous layer of danger, proving unequivocally that the past in Jefferson Run is far from dead. It is actively, violently, and relentlessly influencing the present. Roman's desperate deal with the Black Baron boys, Dante's reckless debt, and their mother's haunting disappearance are all revealed to be intricate pieces of a larger, more ominous puzzle that threatens to utterly consume them all, leaving an immense psychological burden and forcing them to question everything they thought they knew about their family and their place in the world. In the explosive and climactic final portion of King of Ashes, Roman and the entire Carruthers family are relentlessly forced to confront the brutal, unavoidable, and often tragic consequences of their cumulative choices, the long-buried secrets that have resurfaced with vengeance, and the inescapable, vice-like grip of the criminal underworld. This intense conclusion serves as the devastating, high-stakes culmination of all the preceding tensions, betrayals, and profound sacrifices that have defined their journey. The violence that has simmered throughout the novel boils over into a series of intense, visceral, and high-stakes confrontations that leave no one untouched. Roman, now irrevocably transformed by his deep immersion in the Black Baron boy's treacherous world, is pushed to his absolute physical and moral limits. He is forced to make agonizing, life-or-death decisions that will not only determine his own grim fate, but also the very survival of everyone he holds dear. The themes of familial loyalty are tested to their absolute breaking point, revealing the extraordinary and often terrifying lengths to which Roman is willing to go to protect his kin, even if it means sacrificing his own soul and sense of self. This powerful concluding section delves deep into the tragic and cyclical nature of crime, vengeance, and inherited legacies. It vividly illustrates how the initial actions, particularly Dante's reckless debt and the long-held, corrosive secrets surrounding their mother's disappearance, have created an inescapable chain of violent events that now demand a final, bloody reckoning. The narrative culminates in a devastating crescendo of action and emotion, where characters face dire betrayals, forge unexpected and precarious alliances, and endure profound, often irreversible losses. The ultimate fate of the crematorium, once a steadfast symbol of the family's enduring legacy and hope, also reaches its dramatic and conclusive end, symbolizing either their hard-won salvation or their complete and utter destruction. The story doesn't necessarily offer a clean, neatly tied, or conventionally happy ending, but rather a powerful, raw, and often heartbreaking portrayal of survival in a morally compromised and unforgiving world. It leaves the reader contemplating the true, staggering cost of loyalty, the indelible scars left by endemic violence, and the enduring, yet often agonizing, power of family bonds, even when stretched to their absolute breaking point. King of Ashes concludes with an unflinching and visceral depiction of a family forever altered and haunted by the literal and figurative fires they faced, leaving a profound and lasting impression of the dark, gritty reality essay Cosby so masterfully portrays. If you want to experience all the excitement and mystery this book has to offer, I've left a link for you in the description box below. Click it to read the complete story for yourself. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Story Cafe for more amazing book journeys.